Okay, here's a mind bender for you. What if every single choice you'll ever make was already known before you were even born, but you were still completely free to make it? It sounds like a total paradox, right? Well, today we're going to dive into a theological perspective that actually tries to solve this exact puzzle. We're going to see how the concepts of God, time, and our own free will might not be at war with each other, but could actually be part of one single divine plan. So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll start with a powerful analogy about love and freedom to get us grounded. Then we're going to zoom way out to this wild concept of God existing beyond time itself. From there, we'll see how that leads to the idea that everything is planned, and we'll even test that theory with a really specific theological debate. And finally, we'll tackle the biggest question of all: what's the point of any of it? So, how do we even begin to wrap our heads around these huge cosmic ideas? Well, the text we're digging into starts somewhere we can all understand: love. It uses this really fascinating analogy to set the stage for the whole relationship between humanity and a divine creator. This quote right here, this is the heart of the analogy. It describes a servant who's been offered his freedom, but he makes a choice that seems, well, kind of backwards. He chooses to stay. And why? Because of love. Love for his master, for his family. The source material presents this not as some command, but as a metaphor for the absolute highest form of devotion. And the key thing to get here is that this isn't about being forced into anything. It's a choice made freely out of love. The whole idea is that the ultimate expression of your freedom isn't just doing whatever you want. Instead, it's willingly choosing to align yourself with a divine purpose. So it totally flips the idea of surrender on its head. It's not a loss, but the most meaningful choice you could possibly make. All right, so if that's the ideal for human choice on a personal scale, how in the world does that fit into the grand scheme of things? To get that, we have to zoom way, way out and talk about how a divine being might perceive time itself. Here's the core concept, and it's a big one. According to this view, time and space, they aren't eternal. They are part of creation, just like everything else. So if God is the creator, then God has to exist outside of them. Think of it like an author and their novel. The author isn't trapped on page 50. They can see the beginning, the middle, and the end all at once. That's the idea here, a being who sees all of history simultaneously. This verse really gets right to the heart of that idea. When it says, "I am the first and I am the last," it's not just saying God was there at the start and will be there at the finish. No, it's describing an existence that completely surrounds and contains our entire timeline. Okay, so if God sees the whole timeline at once, what on earth does that mean for you and me, living our lives moment by moment? This is where we get into those really tricky but also fascinating ideas of foreknowledge and destiny. This is the central question, isn't it? I mean, if the end of the story is already known by the author, what does that imply about the characters who are living through it page by page? So the argument here is that for God, it's not really predicting the future. It's more like observing a finished painting. From that unique perspective, our entire timeline, past, present, and future, is just a single, complete reality. And this view isn't just general. It extends to knowing every single person's life before it even begins. And the text we're looking at points to verses just like this as key evidence. And notice the wording here. "Before I formed you, I knew you." This suggests something much deeper than a general plan. It implies a specific personal knowledge of an individual before they were even conceived. And it doesn't stop there. The source material doubles down with even more dramatic examples. Things like naming kings by name centuries before they were born, or knowing the exact words of a prayer before it's ever even whispered. In this view, these aren't just, good guesses. They're statements of fact about a future that, from God's perspective, has already happened. So, to kind of put it all together, this viewpoint sees reality as a kind of pre-written play. We, the actors on the stage, are experiencing it line by line, making our choices as we go. But the author, sitting outside of time, already knows exactly how it ends, because, well, the script is already finished. Now, how do theologians actually wrestle with these super complex ideas? The source highlights a really interesting debate that works as a perfect test case for the limits of divine knowledge within creation. This single verse right here from the Gospel of Matthew sparks a huge debate. I mean, if the Son is divine, how could there possibly be something he doesn't know? This really brings all those abstract concepts we've been talking about into a very specific and very challenging focus. So, how do you explain a verse like that? Well, the text lays out two main arguments. On one hand, you have the view that after his resurrection, and especially after revealing the future in the book of Revelation, the Son must now know everything. I mean, it makes sense, right? But on the other hand, there's the argument that to serve as a true model for humanity, he willingly limits his own knowledge, operating within our created reality and only knowing what the Father reveals. It's a really deep debate about his dual nature. And all of this leads us to the final and maybe the most important question. Why? If the whole plan is already set, why even go through the process? What is the theological purpose for structuring reality like this in the first place? According to this text, the answer is that our universe isn't just some random accident. It's a process. It's a deliberately designed environment, almost like a cosmic stage, that's been built to achieve a very specific outcome. And that purpose has two parts. First, it's all about a journey of discovery. It's designed so that we can experience and really understand divine love for ourselves. And second, it's a process that makes our choices real and tangible. By actually living them out, we create a record, the evidence, if you will, that shows exactly why we end up where we do. And this gets to why our limited perspective is so crucial to the whole plan. Just think about it for a second. If we knew the ending, if we had the full script, could we ever make a truly genuine choice? Could there be any real discovery? In this view, our limitations aren't a flaw. They're the very thing that makes the journey meaningful. And so we end right back here with that central paradox. If the destination is already set, what does that really say about the journey? The source we've looked at seems to suggest that our choices are the very substance of the plan itself. They're the way that the pre-written story becomes our experienced reality. And that is a really profound idea to think about.